It's only because Discord is a smelly pirate hooker.
Well, Discord. Remember, we're entering a new wave here. This is a slower wave than other like programs of this type seem to occupy. Where remember when everyone had not Spotify. I was about to say Spec. What's it even called?
Skype.
Skype. So Skype. We had Skype. When Skype came out, everyone was like, "Oh my god, this is amazing! You have to get on Skype." And then you cycle
that
around
was
to
never
Skype
true.
sucks is the worst. Well, you're a person who's
Pepper,
had
that was never true.
You've had competent computer stuff for a while because you know how to do them. For people who are like, the only thing I know how to do on a computer is AIM. The upgrade from AIM to Skype to like the layman or me was like, wow, we can do voice calls and even like occasionally turn on a camera that works sometimes. Then you step to Discord and everyone's like, Skype is the worst. Discord is amazing. And now we're like, Discord is the worst. It's going publicly. What's going to happen next? So I'm curious. Will Discord evolve or do you get a new one?
I get to be the get off my lawn person and every new thing that's come through. And Zanny can confirm. What's the first thing Draggor has to say about some new platform? This is bullshit.
Bad.
I was just ranting about fucking Telegram today. I changed my username to list they, them pronouns on my Telegram name, so it shows up with every fucking message. And the number of times it's gotten wrong, not because people are ignoring it, but if you fucking add someone to your contacts in Telegram, the name never updates for you once you do that.
Oh, you're right. You know, yeah, I still have some emojis that like auto-generated when I put somebody in my contact way like years ago, and they're still there, even if they have completely different, like go by different names at this point.
And like, don't get me wrong, I have commissioned stickers because I'm a fucking furry more than I'm a techno-evangelist. That was an awkward way to pronounce that. Whoops.
You're the least furry. Of the three of us, I am the only one with any actual fur.
Fair.
Yes. However, I have had several characters with fur in Boner Words land, and
oh
yes.
Does that
Boner
just are you
Words
just
land?
Is that a very complicated way to say pubic hair?
No. I have role played. I have role played and type fucked as many furry species.
Boner Words land, the land made of words that induce boners.
Yes,
God, it all makes sense now. All comes together.
I'd say that should be our episode title, but that might not fly.
Boner Words land?
Boner Words land?
Boner. Well, we'll spell it like Boehner, B-O-E-N. We'll just say Boehner Words land, but everyone will read it as Boner anyway.
Oh, geez.
Hey, you see how that guy's getting like a pop culture revival where Boehner came out and he's like, the GOP is not the party of me, and like people disowning the Republicans while not changing any of their views, yet they still get liberal brownie points for doing so.
And
Anybody
he sells
seeing
his
that?
own brand of weed too.
Oh, like I'm sure he does. And I'm
not
sure the
even
gays aren't
kidding.
allowed to buy it. He can deny service to all gays.
I cannot handle this amount of lib shit.
It's pretty,
Oh.
Yo, fucking Donald Trump's son could tomorrow turn around and be, I'm trying to think of who, like, I don't know, Giuliani, whoever. Any rando Trump person who has done as much as possible to further the agenda of this person that we all apparently think is the worst person ever. If they run around tomorrow and put a blue D on their chest and go like, I am coming out as a Democrat, you'll have people fucking, like Nancy Pelosi will cry and hug them and give them a big tongue kiss on TV. Like, we just have the shortest memories possible. And it's not about what you believe. It's about the letter you stick in front of your name, and I hate it.
I mean, don't
Sorry,
get me
I'm
wrong.
inventing things to get mad about.
Don't
but
get
I'm
me
sure it'll
wrong.
happen.
If
It
you
has
have
happened.
an R next to your name, that's really bad. But there is no opposite of signifying good. Just the letter signifies, well, are you like lib shit? So like you at least tolerate and put up with the gays and you seem to fight for that, but that's about it? And addressing any of the underlying issues? No. Or are you full on, I'm gonna say an F-bomb. Huzzah! More electorate points.
Do you want the party that completely worships strength and power, or kinda?
Do you want the group that only likes rich white people, or the group that only likes rich people, but you are allowed to be black if you want?
Wait. You are allowed to be black if you want?
Oh, we're killing it. Hey, I have a written intro here, and this is okay. So this is gonna sound like it's super serious, but I promise I pull it out at the end. Disclaimer: this is a comedy politics show, not a mental health expert show. But please don't take anything I say too seriously here. But when I was a teenager, I was diagnosed with Asperger's, which is no longer a thing, but it's just been added into the greater autism spectrum. Asperger's is on the high functioning end, and they stuck me on there. Yeah, I haven't been back to anyone to talk about it since I was about 16, so that's why I don't talk about the diagnosis very much. It hasn't been a foundational part of my life since then.
It's funny. I was diagnosed unattentative ADD, non-hyperactive, which I don't even think they call that now. Which
it's not even a thing.
I identify as ADHD inattentive, which is very much more fitting into what I deal with. So if I can, basically I just have to hype up on caffeine to pay the fuck attention for extended amounts of time. It's kind of my deal.
In the last year, I've been hearing a lot more, especially through Twitter and just talking to people, a lot more about what ADHD actually is and like how it manifests itself in people. And the more I learn about it, the more I kind of read them and go, oh fuck, that sounds like like the other day I was standing in my closet, eating pizza rolls, watching Adventure Time on my phone, smoking weed, and if that wasn't already obvious, and practicing 3-ball juggling. And at this point, my brain told me that I needed to do something. Like, how's everyone else's mental health going after 1 year-ish of plague? How are you both feeling?
I mean, I wear it on my sleeve. Horrible. I am the opposite of most people. So the point of privilege is I bought this condo when I was 24, and the downside is it has been just me in it. And this is I have been calling it my prison for a while now because, I'll visit Xan and Alkali, I'll visit my parents, and there's other, stressors around that because the absence of being regularly socialized means I'm out of practice. So that sucks. But it's better than being in the fucking prison.
I keep going on weird rants. I talk to strangers and I just keep going. And sometimes I'll notice their eyes just and I'm like, oh no, I'm talking too much. Like, you're right. Out of practice, I definitely sympathize with.
But yeah, I'll be out and about and I'll do the things that'll have its own crazy high stress. And then I'll sigh, be like, all right, I'm going fucking home. And as soon as I get in and lock the door, the wave of depression, not that I left a fun thing or anything. I am back in prison.
Yeah.
It's solitary. It's just me. I can't do anything here. I can't muster the energy because why? I'm still going to be stuck here.
Yeah, we're definitely in the killing time. If we haven't already been, people hit it at different stages, but I am solidly on my, I think, second month of just killing time pandemic. Where there's no point in trying to push anything forward at the moment. We're killing time. We're just waiting. When are we back to where we can kind of do the things we were doing before? I know I'm trying not to be despairing about it, but notice I'm not like, quick, we have to get out this new relief bill. I was like, they're not fucking going to do it. They're not going to do any of it. We're not getting paid to stay home. That's never, ever going to happen during this pandemic. We're going to have looked at all of the precautions we should have taken, all the lessons we should have learned from a pandemic that hit almost exactly 1 century ago in Spanish flu, and we didn't do any of them, and we're not going to do any of them. And if you live in half of the states, they're working at the opposite. Like Arizona passed a law where you're not allowed to do any it's just quote unquote banning vaccine passports. It's a preemptive law it's based on a hypothetical, so it's not exactly the most toothful law, I guess. But they're making it, I think, what was it? Other state is like, oh, the blah, blah, blah state Supreme Court says it is illegal for you to do a mask mandate at all. And it's like, wow, we are trying to keep fucking Corona going forever.
And that is led by the party that is, how dare you tell me what to do?
How dare you tell me how to run my business and kill people, potentially.
And all the businesses are like, look, no one's fucking coming in. But Arizona, now people are now that the vaccine's out, we have, all Scottsdale bars are packed.
I just saw WrestleMania. I'm just like, oh, fuck.
Oh my God, WrestleMania. I have people I follow on Twitter who I'm like, oh, you're like a blue check person. And you're what? And then they're posting, I'm here at WrestleMania. I'm like, oh, well, you're a piece of shit, I guess. Like, why would you go to that?
And like they got drenched and rained on and they had to go in and outside because there was like a typhoon or something.
Oh my God.
Zan, if
I don't
you
want to say
listen to
good
the thing,
but it's fucking
shit. All right, I'm not going to make it about wrestling more.
Fucking WrestleMania. They had to sign a waiver, for fuck's sake.
Arizona, we just passed a law in our state moving towards the thing that they keep trying to do and not doing, where it just makes you can't sue your job if they force you to get COVID or get fired.
It's fucking terrible.
Yeah, if you work at a grocery store and they're like, you must come to work. It's like, I think I'm going to get COVID. And they're like, no, you got to come to work. We don't give a shit. And then you die of COVID or get COVID and it fucks up your life permanently, as far as we know. You can't sue them, maybe, at least in Arizona. It's another one of those like preemptive laws where we don't know if it's going to mean anything. It's just kind of designed to like, hey, just in case you wanted to do something, we're already saying no.
We already know the precedent for that on how evil everything is. Jon Stewart at Post Daily Show is most notable for spending a freaking decade of his life fighting tooth and nail for getting first responders of 9/11 the care they need. And like many of them died along the way.
Oh yeah, his group would he would be like, well, we had this guy, he's fucking dead now, so we put a thing in his place. Remember that guy? Here's a picture of him. In the time we've been fighting this, you allowed him to die.
It's funny as the king of the libs. I like Jon Stewart.
He should be king of the libs.
He's kind of king of the libs, but I have to think he went for a layup like that, like something everyone can agree on.
Exactly,
and showing that you have to fight tooth and nail for that shit.
To get like 20 people healthcare. Yeah. To get like one group of people who worked at one disaster once to try to get them not even like free forever healthcare, just like, hey, don't be an asshole. Maybe pay for their medical bills. Yeah. And it's taken longer than the lifetimes of the people he's fighting for to get it accomplished.
It's why I continue to say that the rulers, and I don't mean the elected officials, the people that spend on the super PACs and do officials. Yes, they have all together decided that not an ounce of socialism is allowed.
Yeah,
like that's the only takeaway. You look at the evidence, you look at everything. How old were you, if you feel like saying, Pepper, when 9/11 happened?
Oh, I was, Jesus Christ.
You're like 9?
I was 10.
10.
Perfectly 10.
So you remember how in like before, becoming woke and what have you, how the country kind of really did come together and go, holy shit, this is bad. We got fucking attacked. It hadn't happened in our lifetimes or like in so long. It was such a shock. Did you feel that? Did people around you feel that?
Oh, totally. That was like that was the period of my life between about 10 and maybe, let's just say 10 to 20. That was the decade where I was the most Djangoistic. They played and I'm proud to be an American. And I fucking stood up. I would stand up at the county fair. My dad was next to me and I stood up and I like put my head over my heart because like everyone was doing that. And then he's sitting down with his arms crossed, like just like making a stink face. And I'm like, Dad, aren't we gonna? And he's like, that's not the fucking national anthem. I'm not standing up for this horse shit. And I'm like, Dad, like retroactively, my dad is the best.
Zan, what about you? Since you're, I'm older than Pepper and you're older than me.
Yeah.
Were you ever like? Were you? How much, if at all, were you around 9/11 in the immediate after? Yeah. I'm not. God damn it, Pepper.
So
were you on board with the like, holy shit, we got attacked. We have to set aside some differences and be like, well, fuck that. We got attacked.
I had definitely. I mean. Okay, so I was definitely old enough to say, hold on. And seeing all these flags go up, I got really nervous. I'm just like, wait, these people have like, I don't know. We just went through 1999. I know we talked about it before, but now like everyone's just like, oh shit, we got to do this thing. And I'm just like, what is happening right now? So I slowly watched the ramp up to Iraq, and that whole thing is what radicalized me, honestly.
Yeah, totally.
And so but I wasn't on board. Like, yeah, I went along with it, but it more so really disturbed me how fast everyone was on, like, oh shit, this is our mission now. I'm just like, oh, okay.
Think about that in the reverse. If you can message your way into that, you could message your way into something positive too. In the same way everybody got swept up, you could fucking...
Well, that was my expectation, right? So,
yeah.
Okay, yes, a fucking war happened, but I also kind of figured, well, we're all not going to get socialism, but we're going to genuinely take care of the first responders and make them actual heroes. Like, I thought that's how it works, right? You read history.
Just a bunch of people got scared of Muslims. That's it.
Oh,
Well, again, people who weren't like I remember being taught like, oh, Islam is fuck for the okay. So you know how you'll hear people who will say it's not that I hate Jewish people, it's that I hate international Jewishism, right? Where they'll be like the international Jew, which is a phrase only said by Nazis. I've heard on the radio the international Muslim. So it's just the same shit.
Well, so that's the Muslim thing. Globalist is basically code for the international Jew.
Yeah.
Globalist, the international Jew. Now we're talking about the international Muslim. Like,
Draggor,
Israel.
I think you actually you hit on something interesting. Is like one thing I could not get out of my brain when all this was happening was a line from The Rock of all things. is from Oscar Wilde is patriotism is a virtue of the vicious. And
yes.
Sean Connery said that, and I know that because Sean Connery said it in The Rock. So
yes,
I'm going to give the credit to that stupid ass movie.
Yes, to be clear, we were talking about The Rock, the movie, not The Rock, the wrestler.
Not Wayne the Drock Johnson.
Right.
Johnson.
Like Sean Connery says, patriotism is a virtue of the vicious, as said by Oscar Wilde, and Ed Harris butts him in the back of the head with a rifle and said, "Thank you for proving my point."
Okay, I want to talk about our main topic today.
Yes.
I guess. I have been reading a book. You could even call this a segment socialist book club if you really want, but it's not even that socialist. This book actually particularly, an important part of it is that it does not ascribe any specific ideology. So while you're listening to this, please keep in mind that if you're like, oh yeah, we should do all these things to make sure that leftism becomes like the predominant, that's not necessarily a part of it. This could be for any ideology, but you'll see what I'm talking about as I go in here. So I'm talking about a book called The Devil You Know, A Black Power Manifesto, written by Charles M. Blow. Charles Blow is he's a columnist for the New York Times. He has one book before this called Fire Showed Up in My Bones. And it's funny, I heard about this in a couple of interviews with Charles themselves, and they said, I didn't really necessarily want to write like a race book, a book about race issues. But, as makes sense as you read the thing, he looks at history and how other ideas kind of started in the forms of either popular essays or radio people talk about, or books. And so he wants to put this out there and say, hey, cool, if this takes off, great. I think it's a good idea. I wrote a book about it. So let's talk about it. So this is a book written by a black guy for black Americans, not necessarily African Americans specifically, but any black person living in the continental U.S. This is for them. So what you're hearing is not really going to be me evaluating the quality of that idea or even like how well it could be received within black communities. This is just me taking the idea at face value and kind of talking about it. I also am trying to kind of spread it, I guess, because personally it doesn't sound like a bad strategy, or at the very least good things can be taken from this even if you don't agree with it in its entirety. This book starts out with a quick review of the unrest in 2020, like the racially motivated police killings. This is written fully within the context of today. It goes through and it's like George Floyd happened, and there were all these huge riots, and like the results of those, or really we could say the lack of results for those, end up becoming a point within this as to why the idea is so pressing, or the strategy might be like, hey, we've tried everything else, why not try this? It does some effort to, if you're a non-black person who is like, what? I want to get a quick crash course of all the crazy shit we've done to specifically and through policy keep the black race down in America, from the end of slavery to now. If you want a quick whirlwind of that, read this book. It'll give you a good little history of what's been going on. Charles talks about how in our most recent presidential election, a record number of people came out to support Trump, who, to reiterate, is the guy who we've all been told is the worst guy ever. He got more votes than any other Republican ever in the history of the country of America. We talk about how Biden got more votes. Yeah. Second place is the person Biden beat, Trump. Those people have not left America, and I'm pretty sure they're going to vote again. Charles Blow gives us a pretty good rundown of all the reasons that black people have to feel hopeless right now in 2021, in current year. He brings up Georgia's unexpected Democratic support and mentions how Georgia has had a recent uptick in black population. Like, as far as like majority black states go, Georgia's one of the few ones. And what do either of you, what do you know about Atlanta, like financially, how Atlanta's been doing as a city?
I don't. How are they doing?
Atlanta has a thriving middle class. They've had black mayors since like the 70s. And in general, Atlanta can be seen as like, look, it is very possible for black leadership to run a city, to run a metro area, and for it to be in a capitalist system by capitalist measures like GDP and expansion and business health and stuff like that, to be very successful. Atlanta is growing. It has the busiest airport arguably in this half of, if not the entire world, depending on how you look at it. Atlanta's doing pretty good. Notice Georgia suddenly, out of nowhere, is going Democrat and fucking up elections. Isn't that weird?
It's funny. I had not noticed that what you'd mentioned until like around the late 2000s, like when it was called Hotland and stuff like that. As far as what what was happening there, and with Atlanta, as you would.
Well,
Yeah.
let's directly address one of the things that is in the realm of peak lib shit. Oh, fuck these southern states. You mean these states that are gerrymandered to hell and have the greatest concentration of black populations? Like the people we're supposed to be allying with and fighting for? But
Yeah.
because they're
funny
in
to see
some
the
weird geopolitical outline, because it's a, quote, red state? Oh, gosh, it's almost like you have an answer for this coming up, Pepper.
Yeah. It's funny to see the disconnect between people who rail about gerrymandering and unfair election practices, and then the second a southern state is red, they go, fuck all of them. Fuck the entire state of Alabama. And they just seem to forget about all the gerrymandering, unfair election practices that was in their mouths a week before.
I think there's a sense of hopelessness in that it's 60% red. There's no way it could ever, or whatever it is, like it's the idea of a blue Georgia, like to me, being the oldest one here, it's fucking wild.
Well, and to be clear, they always use, when they give those statistics, they talk about percentages of the electorate and not the populations. Like that is an intentional lie with information to make you think it is a wider gap than it is.
Very
Yeah, it's like, look, this massive percent of black people voted Democrat, but they are just kind of dwarfed by, or not even dwarfed. In some of these cases, they're losing by like 2-3%. The Democrats will lose. And because of, 100,000 extra votes on the Republican side, the entire state is like abandoned or treated like it doesn't matter. I want to talk about the Great Migration, because that is another huge topic in this book. The book is called The Devil You Know by Charles M. Blow. Look it up at your library. I got my copy for free. The Great Migration is a period in between like 1910 and 1950 where like lynchings in the South were at an all-time high. The KKK was flying around all over the place. And as a logical result, a lot of black people fled to the north and to the west. That's when we got our large black populations in California cities, in Minneapolis, in Chicago. Name a northern city. There was at some point the Great Migration, big draining of total southern population of black people from the South up to the north and to the west. Then that was followed by white flight to the suburbs. That's when like Detroit suddenly became, oh no, Detroit's just falling apart because everybody who has careers and makes a lot of money has left.
Oh, I learned about both of those with the local documentary for here in Chicago. They described both of those.
It's
almost, you two live in Chicago.
It's almost like it's a bad idea to tie school funding to income taxes.
Oh my God.
Yeah, right. So you end up with this pattern in these like destination cities where black people left the South to go to, hopefully seeking better lives and employment in the North and West. What you end up with today are these urban centers who are majority, or at least quite a few, like large black population, where it's just poverty and bad times, and then it's surrounded by affluent white middle class suburbs. That's the result of that. Black people leave the South, they go to the North. White people leave their city centers, not the whole area. They just go out of the middle of the city to the outskirts of the city because they can afford to move. And that's how you kind of end up with our current situation. Here's Charles's proposition. This is the plan I'm talking about. And that was all set up with purpose. He thinks that black people living, especially in destination cities, in the places that they left to in the 10s through 50s, to return to strategic states in the South for many, many reasons, primarily to turn a bunch of states into Georgias, the same way that Georgia's gotten flipped. If we went through, I have a list here. Let me find it before I do it. He names Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, both Carolinas, Virginia, not West Virginia, Maryland, and Delaware. If you look at the numbers in Congress that those states hold, if you look at the current black populations of those states, it would not take that many people moving from a Chicago or a Minneapolis or a Portland back to the South, or to the South for the first time if that's not where you're from, to suddenly make these states a black belt. The belt of, look, we can run all these states, and whatever policy you want to pass, we must get our senators to go along with.
You technically said this first, but, I agree with it. This is not saying anything about political ideology. It's not saying anything about leftism. It is only saying, it's essentially only addressing white supremacy and racism. And the
goal is to have black people seize self-determination, where they get to pick a couple of their own leaders.
That's not saying anything for queer rights once this were to happen.
True.
Yeah, I mention that only so people don't accidentally end up tying on a lot of concepts to this idea that are not a part of its roots. We all kind of assume that if people that aren't only rich white people got to choose some leaders, we would probably get different types of leaders, but that is not necessarily a guarantee. You could have a majority black population elect a black evangelical Christian who essentially has conservative current values. Like that's a possible outcome. That's why I don't wrap that into the thing when you're hearing us talk about.
We've got Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago, who's a fucking cop.
Oh yeah. So you would say, why? Why does Mr. Blow want people to move back to those states? Well, I kind of already gave it away. But it's to concentrate political power. They don't want to be coy about this. This should be the intent of people moving back. Not just, we'll trick you to happen to move to Delaware. No, this is, you need to move here with the purpose of, we're going to move here and vote. We are moving here to vote. We are moving here to elect a governor. We're moving here to elect enough senators to become a stumbling block. Imagine if there were 30 senators elected by majority black populations. What issues would suddenly have to go in the Senate?
Police brutality. Reparations.
It wouldn't necessarily pass in a way we like, but it would have to get talked about.
Definitely pay attention to cop stuff more, I'd say.
Charles even gives examples of specific cities that he thinks would be a good choice. And again, check out this book. But he talks about how he grew up in a majority black suburb, in a majority black city, went to a majority black university, and so the issues of the cops going, this one, the only dark-skinned person in this neighborhood, they're a threat. We gotta check them out. That's not even possible because he grew up in an area where nobody would assume you're a threat. You're one of many Southern black boys who live around other Southern black boys. Why would we freak out when we drive by you in the street? We're a majority black police force, which doesn't make the police good, but it does make them at least slightly less likely to be crazy trigger happy when pulling up to a bunch of kids on a playground.
True.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well,
that looks like my son. I'm not going to blow him away for no reason.
Yeah. I like framing it, at least for me, and because this isn't for me, but looking at it through the filter of, this is specific actions people can take to address white supremacy.
Yeah.
Like Draggor said, this definitely does deal with that. Because in order for it not to, you would have to assume that somehow a majority of black people could be manipulated into voting for a white supremacist. Which we hope is probably not a thing, right? I have enough faith in humanity to believe that. That seems like an easy one.
They would be willing to look the other way if they thought there was an evil commie on the other side. I'm telling you, the Red Scare fucked people up.
Charles's plan puts I like this plan because it's like self-determination. It's self-determinist. It's not like, oh, we're gonna like do a letter writing campaign to try and convince the white people who hold the political power to be nice enough to us to like, that's not a part of it. It's not, oh, please, current senators, change your minds. It's not it. This is like, oh, they're never gonna change their minds. Shit is never gonna be different. So instead, let us approach this in a way of like, okay, we're within the system. This is rules set up by the system. Let's go for it. Can I tell you about a precedent for this? Vermont.
Yeah.
In the 80s, there was, I'm going to mess up specifics, but it was like, there was a radio host who read off like a thing they wrote, like an essay went out, thing in the paper. It's the 80s. There's no internet yet. And their idea was, hey, I did the math, and based on the population of Vermont and the current voting records, blah, 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 we think only about 100,000 people, if about 100,000 people moved to Vermont with a specific purpose of gaining political power, taking it over, influencing elections, it'd be doable. 100,000 people, you could sway these elections whichever way that group wanted. And where does the only openly socialist identifying senator come from? Vermont.
Yep.
It was completely successful if you look at it from certain angles.
Zan, you and Alkali watched a documentary about, I mean, we comically say cult, but what was that thing you
the
watched?
Sannyasins.
Like, didn't
The
they basically
sannyasins
do
and-
that for their local government too?
Yes, yes, they did, and it only got like. In fact, it got weird when the locals were like, we don't like people getting together with people they like, and it's changing the town. They felt like this is their town and you can't change it by living here, is almost how they felt. And that's when things got dicey and conflicty, if you will.
So when you do this, don't make yourselves look like a cult. Just show up and vote together.
In the same way that like a whole bunch of rando white people moving to Vermont wouldn't freak people out in the 80s because it didn't, yet they still managed to do their thing. A whole bunch of black people moving into majority black neighborhoods in the South, I don't think it would even attract that kind of attention. I do think that the second a bunch of southern states look like they're going to start flipping, a whole bunch of attention will be spent there. But like, what are you going to do? I mean, we're already pretty fashy, but I mean, short of going to each individual's house and like walking them to the polls and moving their hand to the one you want them to vote for, what the fuck are you gonna do?
Yeah.
Attack us with the police? They're already doing that. Try to restrict voter rights? They're already doing that. And in a black majority controlled state, those kind of shits wouldn't even pass in the first place. If you control a couple of state legislatures, he talks about how most of the big movements, like when things start changing in the US in current year, it's because of a state. Like, how did weed get legalized? A few states said, fuck it, we're doing it anyway. And then, a couple decades later, we're coming around to Joe Biden firing people for smoking weed after he specifically said that he would federally legalize it.
But it's because they lied, Pepper. It's not about the weed. It's about the lie. As if
That's
Joe
why Kamala
Biden has
gets her
never lied in
job.
his life.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Holy shit.
Oh, it's about security
I have-
clearance. If you lie about that, then what else are you lying about? Like,
If lying about a thing before you take the job is an offense, Joe Biden should have been murdered at this point, shouldn't he? Didn't he lie about a lot of shit that he was going to do in taking office, such as federally decriminalizing marijuana?
I'll never forget how when if you don't know, my parents are crazy conservative, and they were mad that Bill Clinton lied about having sex in the office. That was the big offense. Not so much the sex, the lie.
Not the fucking.
On the
lying.
stand.
The fuck.
Like, what the fuck?
It's not the rape that messed with us. It's the lying about the rape.
Like, what the fuck?
So just in our Discord chat, people have pointed out the phenomenon of people. I live in Arizona, which is a state that people are a lot of rich white Californians and rich white, well, not so much Texans because they got, but people move here for different tax rates. Like, how is that different or better? I would say it's worse because you're not even moving for something you believe in. You're moving there to specifically pay less of your part to, like, you know, fund the country we all live in. So if people are moving for those reasons, this seems like a way better and especially more honorable reason to do a thing.
The thing is, the wealthy people that are moving, because of the income gap continuing to grow, they're not as big of a dent of the voting population by doing it. So, like, in comparison
they're
to
not moving
the
for that
proposal,
purpose.
yeah. And, like, to be clear, moving to a place to have more affordable living costs is not inherently good or bad. If anything, it's inherently good because that means the person or family doing it is going to get more out of their resources and hopefully their lives.
Can we?
It's only bad with Ben Shapiro moving to fucking Texas because he wants to pay fewer taxes for his very successful money-making operation. Yeah. That's
Draggor,
fucky.
They're literally moving so they have more democracy, so they have more say over what they should have say over, you know? So there's that idea.
Arizona and Texas, the reason we're looking more purpley every other day here, the reason Arizona went for Biden and that, partially is because Republicans get in power, they get the tax base down to basically zero, and then people move here from California who are used to voting Democrat, and now they live here, and they're still voting Democrat. So it's like, oh no, shit, like, we ruined it. Oops.
Well, I do have to get going. Is there anything else you want to talk about right before I go?
What do you want to leave us with? What's your favorite chocolate company?
My favorite... what company? Chocolate?
I changed that halfway through saying. I was going to say, what's your favorite candy? And then I'm like, what's your favorite chocolate? And I'm like, chocolate company.
Not Nestle. Aren't they the water fuckers?
Yes.
We get...
Water fuckers and... Was it Nestle? No. Who did the formula thing that murdered a bunch of babies?
Oh, that's a good question.
What?
Which lovable company?
Long story short, one of the companies that makes breastfeeding formula basically went to a bunch of impoverished countries and were like, "This is better for you. Do this. This is better for your baby. Do this." And it turns out, like, right after you have a baby, if you don't produce breast milk, you'll stop. So when you run out of money, you can't buy the food for your baby, and you can't breastfeed, and then a shit ton of babies died.
Man, you just described the whole reason that formula became a thing in the first place. And it sounds like they tried to do that again, but in Africa, and people were so broke that it had fatal consequences.
And on the end of that fun story, I got to get going.
Hi, Zanny. Thank you for hanging out.
Bye, Zan.
Finish it up. Later. Bye.
This is my like concluding of talking about this book I like.
Okay.
So this is a plan that is completely doable with our current system without changing any rules. It doesn't require us to like get some judge in there or whatever. Fuck, you could do it. I say they because it isn't me, but people could do this. It is exactly the kind of plan that conservatives have been working on since the beginning of America. Throughout this book, he just cites dozens and dozens of examples of where a bunch of white people went, "Hey, we're all going to move to this state to do this thing." Okay. And thousands and thousands of people said, "Yeah, got it." And they did it. So this is not unprecedented. It wouldn't even be that crazy. And from there, once change starts happening, it could go in any direction. I mean, I hope that the leaders put in place are sympathetic to the views that I am sympathetic to. But like we said, there's no guarantee. But it would be different. In the same way that people want, like, Trump might suck, but at least he'd be different. This would be a better version of that. It's less likely they're going to put a fucking, asshole up there. And maybe this could lead to a destruction of the system that puts one piece of shit in charge of an entire country of, 400 million people.
Yeah, one could only hope.
Woo! That's it. Hey, we do have a chat here. Chad, do you have any comments or questions, things you want, topics? Any other thoughts about this book or the ideas? Again, the book is The Devil You Know, a Black Power Manifesto by Charles M. Blow. Give it a read. Just look at the idea.
I never asked you this while the chat is typing. A big problem for people doing that kind of move is people are so strapped for resources that even doing that is incredibly difficult.
Yeah.
So the population... if you're black, there's a good chance that, because everything stems from slavery here, you do not have as much means.
That is why they specifically mention the destination cities. And they're like, look, not everybody, they just flat out say, look, we know that not everybody can just afford to move. They don't have that luxury. But if you're barely making it in Chicago, how are you going to do it in fucking North Carolina? You'll be almost, if you move to the right suburb, you could take your like 30,000 that you're just barely living on near Chicago, and suddenly, I'm like, I'm all right.
But that's
He talks about
presuming
how,
you get to carry that income with you, or like you can make the jump. This is the fundamental thing where like I like the idea in practice, but the number of people I know who are just moving within a same suburb is difficult.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's definitely not as simple as like, just like step from the left line into the right line.
Yeah.
It would require, but the number of people required to do it, I think he puts the number somewhere. I was like, look, if we can get maybe a couple 100,000 people to do that, even 100,000, like the margins aren't that extreme. Yeah. They're not talking about like, oh, if you are impoverished and just barely making it where you are, this needs to be your primary concern. It's just not going to be. But there are a lot of people who are, especially millennials, who are like, wow, I'm working this bullshit dead-end job with my like education I am in insane amounts of debt for. Why not bring your black brilliance black to the South? Bring it to people who can like appreciate your fucking talents.
Someone in our chat, Huzzah, was saying things like there aren't the jobs. Everything is so depressed that not only can you not just move, there's nothing for you when you get there. And so short of inventing your own currency or creating a commune in these very destination spots to allow people to live, eat, have housing, trade, produce art, like, and at the number of 100,000, you'd like to think that there are enough people that would be able to do it without needing that kind of, I'm going to say the evil word, bootstrapping. But like that's kind of the point, is someone with resources presume you don't have that. What do you do?
We can get a little commie, a little communisty in the commune part of the word communist. It's very like, you were also talking about how we're just not trusting where to throw money, where you will actually help people. On that front, I've just been giving cash to people on the street because it's very unlikely that those people on the street are then going to hand that money to a shadow corporation.
Right.
It's probably going to them, at least for drugs or booze locally. Then we can support our local drug and booze dealers as opposed to...
Drugs, good. Booze, no. Booze is heavily institutionalized unless, there's a deal for, hey, we got this local brewery, spend it there.
Now, I just mean a local person gets to attain some stuff to make them personally feel a little better.
I'm being a smartass. I hope that's obvious.
Yeah, I understand. So on that level, for the communisty flavor of this, if you have the resources to do something like this, it almost comes down to look, a whole bunch of people who listen to us are going to be like homosexuals who don't plan on having children. And if you go to a house that's, if you get a 3-bedroom, you and your partner are in the 1-bedroom, you got 2 extra bedrooms that you can cut people some at cost rent. Okay, I mean, I would just do this for free if I had the money. I would love just to let people live with us. Yeah. But the only way we can keep our lives going is, more than 2 people all kind of equally sharing the cost of the thing. And I know that a rent in a room with us costs a shit ton less than any actual rental anywhere in the area. So moving places as teams, as kind of like team units of, hey, the 3 of us are all friends and we're all going to band together to pay for a place and pay for some groceries so we can keep existing. I think that, these are all small. This is a very Soviet kind of thing to talk about because a Soviet is a small group of people banding their resources together. And I would love if people formed modern day quasi-Soviets where it's like, hi, other millennial friend who is having a shit life, but I'm having a 10% less shit life. Together, we can afford this 3-bedroom house. You know what I'm saying?
I'm always going to preface this I'm not looking for back patting or praise or what have you. I'm just saying, as someone who is solidly middle class, I have done that, and I wish more of my fucking peers would. When I had that house in the suburbs...
bootstrapping towards communism.
Yeah. A friend was living with my then partner and I at the time, and I basically subsidized down the rent just so he had a place he could be at and not be destitute all the time. When another friend of mine who like is my peer but was in a rough spot, I'm like, you don't have to pay me rent. Just if you really want to be nice about it, keep a spreadsheet because I know you're going to eventually end up making way more money than me, and then you can pay me back. And
That's
he
really
did.
The difference. People will say like, "Oh, you're an anti-capitalist, yet you accept rent from this person." It's like, yeah, well, the difference is if that person is like, "Oh fuck, I'm broke this month, I can't pay," I'm not gonna kick them on the street.
No, I would never
live here
unless like the difference is I have to kick you out so someone else comes in because I need money in here because I am out of money. Like the only reason it was ever gonna go south for that person is if I was getting fucked too. And I wasn't.
Even in that, I'd be like, look, you must now accept a second person to live in that room you can't pay for. Like, you know?
Yeah, well.
The bill must be paid somehow. But it's still a while before I'd be like, okay, dealing with a friend who rents you room is so much better than dealing with landlord. Like the people who live with us are not under like contract. We don't have leases. Like the worst they could do is try to fuck us over, and they'd be like, oh no, bye.
I have had that happen, and
it.
it's only because basically I was in a spot, long story short, I had the condo and I was in an apartment with someone else renting because that's what needed to happen for financial reasons to make the rental thing happen. I'm like, all right, fine. So I was renting out the condo, but like basically at cost. So there was my mortgage and association fees. I'm like, all right, all this plus like a little thin sliver of I know something's going to break, so I just want it to be neutral. And so I set all this stuff up. I got everything going, and two friends moved in, and then I was just socially I'm like, hey, you don't have to sign anything, but like, please give me 1 month heads up because, you know, there's still a lot of finance going into having a mortgage. And they did not. And that was not only did they not give me any heads up, when they left was one of the worst financial times I was in, but I was able to get help, which a lot of people can't. But other than that, yeah, if you can, please be generous. Please.
Yeah, I wish there was a mass movement to attach ourselves to, but like I was saying on the internet, there just is not a leftist mass movement anywhere in America right now. Like it kind of was the Bernie Sanders campaign. That was like a center-left thing. It's like, yeah, you know, democracy, but also let's not be complete demons to each other all the time. And that all just got funneled right back into the Democratic Party right after Bernie lost. So like right now, who do you follow? If you're a leftist, not a rad lib or whatever, if you're trying to go for socialism, communism, anarchism, who do you join? There's no one. So the best you can do is the people directly around you in your life. Like if you live in a town and have cash to just be handing out to people who are asking for money, just do that. That will be infinitely more helpful in all likelihood than giving a cent to the Democratic Party.
Like specifically, you know, well, let's talk about this. If in any of your lefty and queer spaces, or just if you're a part of any what would be deemed any kind of minority group for any reason, what is the most common thread you see people talk about when they're having their fun spitballing what if conversations? Oh, if I had all this money and resources, I'd have all these acres, I'd set up all these houses, all my friends could be here for free. Like, the fucking dream my friends and I all have is starting a commune so people can live. And like, yes, there's always the extravagant things each person has. Like, oh, well, if money were no object, I'm a gearhead. And like, I want this car. This would be fulfilling to me. I want that. I'm a Scotch head, and it's completely irrational. But God damn it, once in my life, I'll spend $10,000 on a bottle of whiskey older than me. Like, it's fucking wish fulfillment. Fine. But the crux of what so many people say is not about the superfluous spending. It's about, like, making the world we want. You know, the dreams aren't dead yet. They're still very much alive.
What's dead is any institution helping with it. I guess a ton of people are coming to terms with, like, you start feeling like in the same genre of like a doomsday prepper, but like doomsday prepper for good, where people I know
you might want to rephrase that.
People,
a doomsday prepper for good.
the doomsday has already happened if you think like I think. The doomsday has been happening since, Jesus Christ, 16, whatever. Like, it's been going for a long, long time. We're already in the doomsday. We are currently in the Blade Runner future. It's just boring looking and doesn't have as... Actually, the fun music is here, right? Vaporwave has taken off. The music's here.
The music has
here.
always been here. Thank
The
fuck for
music's
that.
been here. But like, it doesn't look like, we don't have the giant 700-foot tall Asian lady hologram dancing yet, but every other part of it,
but we have Ronnie James Dio hologram touring.
But like the surveillance aspect, the government checking out everything you're doing, the zero privacy aspect of it, that's already here. We already live in a kind of dystopia. We are in a dystopian present, and the only way to shake out of it seems to be to just ignore the system that is and just kind of do the right thing. I mean, I'm not saying ignore the system as in like go do a bunch of crimes, but building, like buying a big ass piece of property and just having like 8 people who you know live on it. Holy shit, you've just improved 7 people's lives far more than like the US government has in the... or probably ever will for those same 7 people. It's we must seize our own destiny and take it, because right now there is no big movement to do that for us or even with us. Hell, I thought BLM, like the organization, the NGO, not just people who think that Black Lives Matter, because I am one of those people. Hopefully most people are those people, but the NGO known as BLM. Oh, wow, it's coming out every day how, the CFO of BLM is a big piece of shit and took all the money and bought like a bunch of nice houses. And like, it's not, don't throw your money at these corporations. They're just other corporations with different names. Like the same way you wouldn't throw your money at the Koch brothers, BLM is becoming like a blue colored version of Koch brothers shit where they're just throwing around money. I give them $20. They spend $50 asking me for more money in the form of mailers, phone calls, staff time, postage. Fuck that. I want to give my $20 to somebody who's going to go buy $20 in weed and smoke it on my corner. That's a much better use of your fucking $20.
Is furry the answer? Right? Like, we have such a geographically diverse reach, and it's effortless for us to even go and meet these people because of the convention network. So, how hard would it be? Of course it would be hard, but let's do the what if, where let's do a tour of all of these conventions. Let's like openly advertise that we are trying to build a movement and build and organize small communes. What would happen? What effect would that have? Because at some point, you already have some groups of furries doing versions of this, like you've said. What happens when you have 10 different furry communes and 8 of them succeed? When you start laying the groundwork and proving it and then going, look, it's working. I say this because, and we brought this up before, is the news acknowledged that furry and punk are the only 2 groups that went, we're kicking out the Nazis.
We are more of a mass left movement than like the Democratic Party for sure. Furries and juggalos, I think, are a more effective movement to the left than any political party.
And like, as much as that may be funny or sad, when you remove the fact that our interest and all the boner words and dicks and holes we're all into and inflates you big and round, whatever, remove all of that, what does furry and juggalos have? Very, very, very diverse, especially economically diverse people coming together to enjoy the thing. It's the education of exposure of other people that are not like you are out there and you get along. So, like, that's the groundwork.
Absolutely.
That's literally the grassroots, the beginning of grassroots right there. You're doing your outreach just by hanging out.
They are good. I don't want to take anything away from it, but furry and juggalo, the fact that they are like good examples, like comparatively to everything else, yet are like furry is still very, very white. It is less white than it was 10 years ago. Same thing with juggalos. It's still very, very white, less white than it was before. But Ooh, the bar is so low, everybody. Like,
Right. All right. Well, so let's address this.
we're
Hi, Zanny.
killing it right
By
now.
the way,
right,
I'm
let's-
back. Hi, how's it going?
Zanny, hello.
I don't want to lose this thought.
Hey,
Let's
how's it
address
going?
this. So, yes, furry is very white. But if you come from my background, which is a very middle-class background,
They're doing well, considering.
no, I'm saying in terms of exposure. The people that
Yeah,
I
totally.
was
That's what I
friends with and hung out with were still all middle class or better. I had several friends that were like, holy shit, you make my parents look poor and they've got a 2,400 square foot house. Fuck me. So think about it from the exposure aspect of because of furry killed my belief in meritocracy, basically.
Oh, yeah.
Because the sheer number of people that I met that had what I am, again, not back padding. Let's just call it thank fuck I got out of some bad ways of thinking. But I grew up in the household where the McJob was looked down upon. That's the thing you desperately try to get out of. And not because you desperately try to get out of it because it is inherently shit. It's that you are viewed as shit or it's supposed to be beneath you. You're not supposed to stay there. That thinking's gone. It's not... There are people in furry that have that thinking, and it's very tragic and unfortunate. But just by showing up to furry, you get exposed to so much more different outlooks and what people deal with, even if you're not getting... Even if they're all white, you're still getting the breakdown of class.
Sure. Oh, yeah. Class solidarity is as far as groups go that cultivate that, I do believe that, yeah. I think furry definitely cultivate. I mean, it did it in me, and it sounds like all three of us, like to some degree.
Absolutely. Like it's weird because like my first growing up experience was a little bit mixed, and actually that's where I got a lot of my empathy when I had classmates who had parents that were struggling, and that's actually where I got my first dose of this is fucked up. Like they're trying just as hard, and their families. I had enough people around me who had families that were struggling, and so that as we got more rich kids in our middle school, as we joined that big group, boy oh boy did I see those divisions happening, and the meritocracy was just went
All right,
on.
let's go with a base one that happens
steroids.
in high school now that everyone has cell phones. And you could call it cell phones, designer brand clothes, that anyone would ever judge you for a thing you can or cannot buy, not make, not do, just simply acquire.
See, that was middle school for me.
Okay.
We got the shit beat out of us for having cheaper clothes.
And like, yes, there's versions of that in furry around the fursuit topics, or are you able to be an art whore, but like for the most part, it's not there. Anyone who dares say something like that, in general, the furry group comes together and goes, "Fuck off." At least in my experience, that's what I witnessed.
Oh, yeah. The Overton window of the
true.
furries is definitely on the like lefter than most. It's closer to the actual middle, and we're definitely very, very anti-corporate. I mean, geez, you remember when that one or two different fursuit makers attempted to like stick like a Versace-esque brand on their like pre-mades and charge a premium, and within an hour, the entire fandom's like, everyone stand in a circle and one at a time tell us how fucking dumb this is and how we all don't like it. And that's encouraging to me.
I mean, do you think we had a conversation of is it okay if Lil Nas X has a knockoff fursuit? I mean, that's
not okay. It's not okay at all, but
it is not okay. But usually, like people wouldn't have those conversations.
Okay, I want to, not that I'm getting off topic, but I want to talk about what Say just said. And I also want to circle things to an end here because we're already about an hour and 15. Lil Nas X, popular rapper of note. He was recently sent to hell, and then he ruled hell after murdering Satan. Are we all caught up on that part of the Lil Nas universe?
Are you intentionally leaving out how fucking gay this whole thing is? Because
yeah, he's sent to hell for being gay, and then gays the devil and murders them.
No, but like, for anyone who has not seen this, I mean, this is really gay in the best way possible. It is hypersexual and gay and in your face, and it is a video that so much of the world has seen.
Remember 300? The movie 300? What 300 was in terms of straightness, this is in terms of gay. It's
What
you
the fuck
stand
are you
in front.
talking about? The 300 was the gayest thing I've seen.
I'm talking about ideology. If you take and look at what the 300 movie tells us
The
about
300 movie tells us you can't openly talk about being gay, but you can look gay and you can do it on the down low.
Well, are you saying gay or just hot man?
I mean, it was about the
Hot
it was
man
about
doesn't mean
the
gay.
They're gay. They fucked. I don't
They
know how else
Romans?
to say this. Like history
They're not
has
Romans?
straight-washed. Not Romans.
Romans? Call a Spartan a Roman. They'll be like, they'll say something racist, but. But anyway.
Look,
So yeah,
gay
the fact that
barbarians
it's in front of
behead
green-
their enemies and then fuck.
So Lil Nas X, very popular rapper at the moment, I shouldn't even say rapper, say musician. I kind of hate when people say rapper instead of musician because it's everyone else you just say musician. But favorite famous musician, Old Town Road, that person. So Lil Nas X, they're also, since they're very, very queer friendly, they just don't really give a shit in general. They're like, furries, I should get a fursuit, blah, blah, blah. And this was months, years, long time ago. And various fursuit makers, skilled craftspeople who can make very good costumes, for a very affordable amount of money when you go on like a world level. The fact that a fursuit costs $2,000, very expensive. $2,000 for what you get in the world, in like whole world, taking in the context of the universe, weirdly cheap for the amount of effort and time put into it. Lil Nas X says on Twitter, like, I want a fursuit. A bunch of fursuit makers, I would love to make you a fursuit. Months and months and months later, Lil Nas X, what did he buy? A fursuit knockoff bootleg for a couple $100 that came from China of a specific furry that we all know. Didn't he buy a fake Ravalo suit? Wasn't it some like known suitor's suit?
I can't speak to whether or not
It
was
was
a
a
known
suit. Yeah, it's like a well-known suit knockoff of a well-known suit, which is super fucked. It's like, first of all, Lil Nas X, they would have made you it for free. Second off, if you make a fursuit for free for a multimillionaire, you need to stop. Stop. They're bad. If they expect to not pay you, fuck them. Don't deliver their suit. Make it and never fucking send it to them. Be like, bitch, give me 10 grand or get out of my life.
Now let's talk about that a little bit, because a lot of suit makers' margins, look at it, exposure, paying something in exposure as like the offer is bad. But if you as an individual artist, if you as an individual artist in any way has an opportunity, and you individually, no matter how awful it is, because it is awful.
Don't do it. Say no. Never do it for free. If fucking Matthew McConaughey says make me a fursuit for free, no, never do it. Never make any celebrity a gift fursuit. Fuck them. They could pay tenfold. Lil Nas X could have paid you $1 million for that fursuit, and he would be fine.
That's
the level they're at now.
But I'm saying from the individual perspective, there is this shit ain't ever gonna change, but something might happen with this. Like, it's the desperation. I'm not gonna shit on someone's desperation of, there is an opportunity here, regardless of
it would benefit
money.
them for sure.
I think I have a story for this.
Go for it.
Draggor, do you remember the business model of my last company?
I do. Fuck, I forgot until right now.
I think this is relevant.
Yeah, but they had so much wrong
Fuck it, we're on a
aside from what
podcast.
you're about to say. But please share.
Yes. Okay. So I used to work for an AR company, and guess what? We were in Chicago. We know a lot of weird people. So. Guess what? My boss met Kanye West.
Nice.
And he came to us and said, hey, Zan, can you animate Kanye West for us over the weekend?
Oh, that was such a miserable weekend.
And I'm like, fuck. Well, it's my job. I can't say no.
Yes,
So.
you can.
Over the weekend, I'm animating Kanye. What?
You're like,
saying,
what's
Draggor?
my job? I can't say no. And I'm like, yes, you can.
For practical purposes. But yeah.
Right? So, but the worst part of all this, we were doing Kanye West in model, and doing it in animation and showing it to him for free. So this is literally Senpai notice us. Please get, like, we are doing the thing.
There's a company doing that.
We're like,
and making other people do it.
It's the company doing it. Yeah. So we did this thing, I animated Kanye West in front of a Chicago skyline, animating one of his fucking songs. And then he liked him dunking the basketball anyway, and that was a pre-canned animation. Fuck you, Kanye West.
Don't do work for famous people. If you're a freelancer especially, do not do work for famous people for free. If they agree to pay you ahead of time, great, go ahead. Yeah, do it. Do a contract. But like, oh my God. And the fucked up thing is, if you do it for free and they use it, yes, you could genuinely benefit from the notoriety, but it all pays into, morally, this system of don't fucking work for free. It's an impossible argument because I can't tell somebody like an actual starving artist, like how many people went from absolutely nothing, then they did some shit for free, and then I am a person who did some shit for free, and that's how that's why I have my career now. I just hate that that's how it works.
Yes, I agree.
Well, it is because all the money is concentrated with those who own it, and so they get used to people coming to them. Ah, yes. What is your service? I guess
you gotta dance monkey dance for them and hope they give you $1.
It's Parasite.
Oh my fuck. Shark Tank, everyone involved on Shark Tank, like the final season, if they're all guillotined, good.
Mark Cuban, can we blast Mark Cuban into the ocean?
No, I do think it is, as much as I want to erase every billionaire's name from history, for the people that are still around, like Heads on Spikes probably is still like a worthwhile message, and then you can forget them.
Yeah, Mark Cuban's one of the best billionaires, in big air quotes, best, and I still want to just slap him every day.
Least worst.
Yeah,
he's still a piece of shit.
Best of the worst millionaires. Let's do it. Best of the worst. All right. Let's say some pre-canned goodbyes. Thank you for listening. I have been Pepper Coyote.
I have been Draggor.
I've been Zandy the Blue.
Let's all three of us do it simultaneously. 3, 2, 1.
I'm
Pepper Coyote.
I'm Zandy the Blue.
Mine sounded bad. Do it one more time.
2, 3.
I'm Pepper